Hey guys. Tonight we're waking up on a cold, uneven floor, wrapped in a blanket that feels more like a burlap sack than anything cozy. The light filtering through the wooden slats above your head is pale and gray. Like the world hasn't fully decided whether to start the day. You're lying on a lumpy straw mattress, or rather, a bag of hay that's seen better centuries. It creaks, it crunches, and worst of all, it moves. Something tiny scurries past your ankle. Welcome to your bed in the Middle Ages. The first thing you notice is the smell. Not something dramatic like rotting meat, just the dull, earthy mix of old wood, unwashed feet, and the slightly sour scent of communal breath. You shift your legs and wince. Every joint in your body has aged 50 years overnight. Your neck feels like it was used as a chopping block. Your lower back sounds like a cartwheel loosening a spoke. And somehow, straw has made it inside your shirt, socks, and probably your mouth. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, comment below with where you're listening from and what time it is. I love knowing where in the world we're dreaming together. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You blink your gummy eyes and look up at the low ceiling, thick wooden beams blackened with soot. There's no clock to check. But judging by the dull light, it's probably just past dawn. Outside, a rooster crows with the tragic optimism of someone who doesn't know he might end up in a pot later today. You stretch your limbs, well, try to, but your legs meet someone else's legs. In fact, the whole room is crowded, siblings, cousins, maybe a neighbor or two. Privacy is for lords and dreams. You sit up and the straw clings to your back like it has rights. Something about the room is always a little damp, as though it sweats while you sleep. The walls are made of wattle and daub, interwoven sticks smeared with a mud-straw mixture that looks like it was troweled on by an optimistic toddler. You try not to lean too hard. It's solid, mostly. The room hums with quiet life, slow breathing. The soft thump of someone pulling on boots. The rustle of shifting hay. A baby somewhere begins to cry. And you instinctively pull your cloak tighter. Though it doesn't help the chill. You glance over at your shoes. Leather things with seams that have given up the ghost. You brace yourself to step in. The moment your foot slides in, your toes curl. They're still damp from yesterday's walk through a muddy trail. Your nose wrinkles. Definitely a new sour note added overnight. In the corner, an old iron brazier still smolders, throwing off more smoke than heat. You edge near it, stretching out your fingers. They're already stiff, already dry. You almost feel nostalgic for the warmth of the mattress rat. There's a moment of stillness, of early morning fog inside your skull. Before the day truly begins. It's the last breath before a tidal wave of chores and obligations sweeps you off your straw bed and into the cold churn of medieval survival. You rub your eyes and yawn. Outside, a cartwheel creaks and the rhythmic thump of a baker's kneading echoes faintly through the thin walls. Life in the village starts early because, well, life is mostly labor. The idea of free time exists mainly in sermons and dreams. The scratchy blanket you slept with is pulled away by someone else getting up. You shiver. The tunic you're wearing is the same one you wore yesterday. Of course it is. Laundry is a rare event. Water is hauled by hand. And soap, if you're lucky, is just harsh lye that burns your skin as much as it cleans. You scratch at your shoulder. Yep, something's living there. It's probably named after you by now. A sleepy voice mumbles a morning prayer. Something between reverence and resignation. You whisper something too, mostly just, "Please don't rain today." The ceiling groans. A reminder that the roof above you leaks when it feels like it. As you push yourself up and prepare to leave the room, your feet press against cold dirt because yes, your floor is the earth itself. Pressed hard over the years by countless feet. It's not clean, but it's familiar. There's something grounding, literally, in starting each day with bare feet on solid ground. You shuffle toward the low doorway. Your back complains again. So do your knees. You duck to avoid hitting your head. You forget to duck. You hit your head. And just as you think you might get a breath of fresh air, your stomach growls loudly. It's time to deal with the morning ritual no one talks about fondly. You step outside into the dim morning light, expecting, perhaps hoping, for a breath of clean, refreshing air to start the day. Instead, the first thing to greet you is the unmistakable punch of reality. It's not just a smell, it's a whole collection of them, layered and fermenting in harmony. There's smoke from cook fires curling up into the gray sky. There's the woolly, damp funk of unwashed tunics drying slowly in the breeze. And then, strongest of all, there's the sour tang of urine. Because today, like every day, someone has to deal with the chamber pot. Yours is made of dull ceramic, wide and deep, and almost full from the overnight contributions of your entire family. There it sits, quietly radiating malevolence in the corner of the room like it's planning something. You try not to breathe through your nose as you approach. The air around it is so thick it could be sliced and served. Your stomach is already skeptical about what this day has in store. And who has the grand honor of emptying it? That's right, you. You lift it carefully, trying not to slosh the contents, though you know it's inevitable. The pot is lukewarm. You hate that you can tell. With a deep breath through your mouth, naturally, you shuffle to the door and out into the yard, where the designated dumping ditch runs along the edge of the lane. It's really more of a shallow trench, a thin river of regret that snakes past each household. You tip the pot and, splash. The sound alone is enough to make you reconsider all your life choices. But it's not like you had many to begin with. Several similar splashes echo from other homes. You are not alone. The entire village is performing this daily ritual, together yet alone in its horror. Your hands, now kissed by the ghosts of waste, feel like they need a cleansing that simply doesn't exist yet. There's a bucket of water nearby. Yesterday's water. It has a strange film on top, like the surface of a forgotten soup. Still, you dunk your hands in it and rub them together with the most optimistic sand nearby. Soap, if you're wondering, is rare and usually homemade from animal fat and wood ash. That's not gentle exfoliation, it's medieval chemical warfare. You haven't seen any in weeks. Rinsed but not redeemed. You wipe your hands on your tunic. It doesn't help. In fact, you just made your clothes worse, which feels like an achievement in reverse. The fabric scratches your skin like an old scouring pad, one that seems to itch out of spite. Behind you, the door creaks. Someone else emerges, holding their own chamber pot at arm's length, face contorted into a familiar grimace. You nod at each other, the nod of two survivors. No words are exchanged. There's nothing to say. Returning inside, the house is slowly stirring. Someone is boiling something over a fire. It smells vaguely of oats and mostly of smoke. A younger sibling stirs in the corner, curled under a ragged blanket that's more whole than fabric. A child coughs, wet and deep. It's the kind of cough that in modern times might merit a doctor's visit. Here, it gets a murmured prayer and maybe some old garlic clove if you're lucky. You spot the familiar lump of straw that serves as your mattress. It's still indented from your body, and still suspiciously warm, despite being empty. You know better than to question it. You try not to look directly at it. There's a goat in the doorway now. Or is it a sheep? In the half-light, all village animals begin to look like small, judgmental dogs. It bleats once, leaves a small unwelcome gift on the floor, and trots off like it owns the place. You step over the mess with the grace of someone who's done it 100 times. Because you have. Hygiene, in the Middle Ages, is less about removing dirt and more about reaching a sort of truce with it. Everyone stinks. It's a known fact, a shared reality. Even those who bathe semi-regularly can't escape the smell of smoke, sweat, leather, and life. Historians still argue about how often the average person really washed. But the consensus is this: not enough to make a modern guest feel welcome. Baths, if they happen, are a community affair. A shared wooden tub, filled once, then reused by the family in descending order of importance. You are not at the top. By the time your turn comes, the water is more memory than liquid. You sit in it out of duty. Trying to believe it helps. And while we're talking about water, most drinking water isn't clean. That's why, shockingly, ale is safer. Yes, even for breakfast. It's weak ale, barely alcoholic, but it's boiled during brewing, which makes it far less likely to kill you than the local stream. So children drink it, you drink it, everyone drinks it. You'd rather not think about what's floating in the alternative. The morning continues to unfold with a kind of sleepy tension. The fire is finally taking hold, licking the bottom of the iron pot as someone adds more grain. A tiny sliver of pork fat floats in the mix like it's on vacation. You eye it with suspicion. You might get a spoonful, if you're quick. Otherwise, breakfast will just be gray. Still shirtless. You search for your tunic. Ah, there it is, folded. Sort of, on top of a crate. You shake it out and immediately sneeze. Dust, straw, and possibly a live moth fly out. The fabric is coarsely woven wool, dyed brownish with something plant-based and very, very old. When it touches your skin, it's like wrapping yourself in a hay bale. And yet, you're grateful, because it's warm. It keeps out just enough of the morning wind to pretend you're comfortable. You slip it over your head, wincing slightly as the seams rub against your raw shoulders. There's a spot on the elbow that's threadbare, again. You'll patch it later. Probably. Maybe. Your belt is next. It's a length of knotted rope. Functional. Ugly. Yours. You loop it through and secure the tunic around your waist. Now you look, well, you feel like you belong here. Someone offers you a bowl. You take it. The oats are warm but flavorless. You chew slowly, staring at the floor, at the smoke curling up to the rafters, at the chicken pecking hopefully near your foot. The air tastes like burnt wood and quiet resentment. You stretch your arms. Your back cracks again. And you sigh. Because now, finally, it's time to go outside. Not for pleasure. Not for leisure. It's time to work. You step outside once more. Properly dressed now, or at least as properly as a medieval villager ever is. Your tunic itches in 5 different places. Your belt digs into your waist. And your shoes, if we're being generous with that word, feel like stiff animal husks wrapped in regret. They're leather, cracked and curling at the toes, held together with hope and a few mismatched stitches. As you walk, you feel each pebble like a personal message from the road. Good morning. You're still poor. The village is awake. You hear it before you see it. Chickens arguing over scraps. The thump of an axe-splitting kindling. The low groan of wooden cartwheels beginning their daily trudge. Voices drift in the air, sharp. Sleepy. Already weary. A woman scolds a child. A man curses the stubborn latch on his gate. Dogs bark with unnecessary enthusiasm. Your job today is the same as yesterday's, off to the fields. The rhythm of life here doesn't shift much. Except when the seasons demand it. Spring brings plowing. Summer brings endless days under a sun that doesn't believe in mercy. Autumn means harvest, backbreaking, frantic, and never quite enough. And winter? Winter means surviving. If you're lucky, you head toward the fields. The path familiar beneath your sore feet. It weaves through the village like a muddy thread, marked with footprints, ruts, and occasional puddles that reflect a sky unsure if it wants to rain. A crow watches from a crooked fence post. Its feathers dull in the pale light. It tilts its head at you, unimpressed. The fields stretch out ahead, low, rolling mounds of earth, divided by rough hedges and wooden stakes. You can already see others bent over rows, their tunics flapping slightly in the breeze like worn-out flags. You join them. There's no ceremony. Just grab a hoe and begin. The ground is hard, packed tight from days of labor and last week's rain. Your hands still bear the blisters from yesterday. And as you dig, one of them splits. You watch the skin peel back like parchment. The sting sharp but unsurprising. There's no bandage. You rub some dirt into it. It's not healing, it's hiding. You fall into the rhythm. Lift. Strike. Pull. Breathe. Over and over. The tools are wooden. The blade dull. The soil is stubborn. Your muscles complain. But you keep moving. That's the rule. Movement is survival. To your left, an older man coughs so hard he nearly drops his hoe. He straightens, winces, and keeps going. There's no time to be sick. Being sick means falling behind. Falling behind means fewer vegetables for the table come winter. It's a simple, merciless economy. A child nearby helps by scaring birds. He claps two sticks together and runs in uneven circles, shouting gibberish and flapping his arms. The birds are unimpressed, so are the adults. But it's tradition. And tradition doesn't need to work, it just needs to happen. The wind picks up slightly, bringing with it the smell of dung and smoke and something sweet, blooming wildflowers. Perhaps. Or a neighbor burning herbs to ward off spirits. Hard to say. Scent, in the Middle Ages, is always a gamble. You pause for a moment to stretch your back. It pops in 3 different places. You wipe sweat from your brow with the inside of your tunic, which is just as damp. The sun isn't even high yet, and you're already feeling the ache behind your eyes, the pull in your spine. Your knees creak when you bend. Your shoulders sting. Still, there's something quiet in this toil. The repetitiveness of it, the earth under your fingers, the wind on your neck. A strange peace, maybe even pride. You're growing food with your own hands. Crooked, cracked, grimy hands. Yes, but still, you are useful. Historians often note that medieval peasants worked less overall than modern office workers. But this isn't 9 to 5. This is seasonal, cyclical, and crushing in short bursts. You may have Sundays off, if the priest doesn't demand extra labor. You may have feast days, if your Lord allows it. But every moment you rest is a moment not preparing for the winter. And winter always remembers. A beetle crawls across your foot. You let it go. You're too tired to squish anything. Someone nearby begins to hum a low, tuneless song. Others join in, not because it sounds good, but because rhythm makes the day shorter. Even a drone helps pass the time. You join in eventually. Your voice hoarse. The words half remembered from childhood. There's a small fringe belief that singing while working keeps the spirits from watching too closely. Or perhaps it just keeps you from noticing how little the spirits seem to help. As you hoe a new row, something glints in the dirt. You dig it out, a piece of pottery. Broken and worn, someone's cup, maybe, from long ago. You brush it off and tuck it into your belt. A fragment of another life. Or just a distraction from this one. A dog runs past, barking at nothing. It startles a goose, which honks indignantly and flaps its wings like a scorned duchess. You chuckle quietly. Even here, in mud and sweat and sun, absurdity finds its way in. You look up. The clouds have thickened slightly. The wind is cooler now, brushing your face with the scent of coming rain. You check the sky like a sailor. It could pass. Or it could turn into an afternoon storm. Either way, you keep digging. And just as your stomach begins to growl and your hands begin to throb with dull pain, a distant bell rings from the church tower. Not loud, not fast, just one long note, stretched like dough in the wind. It's time to break. Lunch, or something like it, waits back at the house. You wipe your hands on your tunic, ignoring the fresh smear of dirt and blood. You stretch your arms again, back groaning like old wood, and start the slow walk back. But the path home is never peaceful. Because ahead of you stands a figure no one wants to see, especially not now. Not when your stomach is empty and your hands are raw. The tax collector has arrived. There he stands, just beyond the fence line, tall, cloaked, and about as welcome as a rainstorm on laundry day. The tax collector. You recognize him by the way the crowd shifts around him. Like sheep parting for a wolf that insists he's just doing his job. His cloak is cleaner than anyone else's. And his boots, leather. Polished. Unscuffed. Look like they've never once touched dung. You'd like to test that. In his hand is a scroll. Long, rolled, and terrifying. It holds the names of everyone in the village, including yours. Not just your name, though. It lists what you own: 1 chicken. Barely. 1 hoe. A shared goat. A roof that leaks and dreams that don't. And yet, somehow, it all adds up to something he can take. He approaches slowly. Not because he's tired, but because he can. There's a performance to this. A rhythm. A ritual of intimidation. Centuries old. The villagers pause in their tasks. No one meets his eyes. A few people slip into homes or behind sheds, pretending to be elsewhere. But you're not fast enough. He sees you. Of course he does. He greets you with a nod that isn't a greeting at all. It's an announcement. He begins speaking, slowly, in that thick, dry tone bureaucrats use when they've said the same speech to too many people. The harvest levy is due. His lordship expects his share. His voice is clean, precise, like it was carved with a very small knife. You nod, swallowing dryly. Your mouth tastes of dust. Or nerves. Or both. We've already given. You say softly, not quite protesting. 2 hens last week. A basket of leeks. He consults the scroll, finger trailing down the ink. Insufficient, he says, like a priest reading your sins. The rains delayed the tally. An adjustment has been made. You resist the urge to glance at your house, where your family waits with the last of the good eggs. You already know what's about to happen. I'll take the piglet, he says flatly. The piglet, the one you've been feeding for weeks. The one you were counting on to fatten through autumn. Its value wasn't just in meat, it was hope. It was winter food, a tradable asset. It was your margin against starvation. That's all we have, you say. Your voice sounds smaller than you feel. The collector doesn't blink, and yet, the debt remains. Historians still debate the actual fairness of medieval tax burdens. But most agree. Peasants rarely had much say. Between church tithes, lordly levies, and surprise fees like ox passage or sunlight rights. It was a wonder anyone survived. The system wasn't designed for balance. It was designed to keep you just fed enough to keep working. You watch, silent, as he gestures to the boy behind him, his assistant. Maybe a local lad, paid in bread and petty power. The boy slips past you and into your yard. Moments later, he returns with the piglet in his arms. Squealing and wriggling, the sound makes your stomach twist. The piglet kicks as it's tied to a rope. It knows, in whatever small way animals know, that it's leaving safety behind. And then, they turn to leave, scroll packed. Boots clean, conscience unbothered. You exhale slowly. It feels like something just left your body that wasn't the pig. The rest of the village begins to move again, as though the spell is broken. A man nearby mutters, "At least it wasn't the cow." You nod numbly. That's the kind of optimism people learn here, measuring luck in what wasn't taken. You begin the walk back to the house. Each step feels heavier now. Not just from the work, but from the loss. You know what it means. No piglet, no fallback. If the harvest is light, if a storm rolls in, if the goat gets sick, there's nothing left to trade. Inside, your family says nothing. They've seen it all from the doorway. Your youngest sibling, eyes wide, asks where the pig went. You shrug and sit on the bench beside the hearth. The bench creaks. Or maybe you do. Your hands rest on your knees. Dirt caked under your fingernails. You stare at the flames. They're small, like everything else right now. Lunch is simple, oatcakes. If they can be called that. Flat, coarse, slightly burned. You chew slowly. The food tastes like ash and memory. Your stomach tightens, unsure whether to accept or protest. The room is quiet. Even the chickens are subdued, as if mourning their barn mate. But life doesn't stop here. It merely waits. You stand again, rolling your shoulders. One of them pops loudly. You rub your elbow and pick up a small basket. If you can't eat well, at least you can work. And you'll need more kindling for tonight's fire. You step back outside into a village that looks the same but now feels smaller. The tax collector's figure is disappearing over the ridge. Piglet bouncing behind him on the rope. Somewhere, a dog barks once, then goes quiet. You move toward the edge of the wood, where twigs and branches wait like unspoken apologies. A neighbor calls out to you. He's older, face like folded leather. He offers half a smile. Next week, it'll be my turn, he says. His tone is neither bitter nor hopeful. It's just a fact. You nod. The wind picks up a little, tossing your hair back. The same crow from earlier circles overhead again, its wings slicing through the sky like black scissors. Your tunic flaps in the breeze. That same old itchy reminder of who you are in this world. A small voice in the back of your mind whispers, "At least they didn't take that." Yet, and just as you reach for a fallen branch near the hedgerow, you hear the church bell ring again, slower this time, more somber. It's time for confession. The bell tolls slowly, echoing across the thatched rooftops and through the tangled hedges like a somber heartbeat. You pause, the basket of twigs cradled in your arms, and stare toward the chapel at the village's edge. It's a simple structure, stone walls patched with moss, a crooked wooden door, and a spire barely taller than the tallest oak. Still, it's the tallest thing in your world. And when it calls, you go. You shuffle toward it with the others, neighbors, family, the occasional stranger who's stayed long enough to be folded into the rhythm of the place. No one speaks much. Words don't carry well in this kind of quiet. There's a reverence, but also a kind of shared anxiety. Because confession, in the Middle Ages, isn't just spiritual maintenance, it's survival insurance. Inside, the air is thick, not warm, not cold, just dense. The scent of beeswax and old incense hangs heavy, like the memory of something sacred. Candles flicker in iron holders, casting shadows that dance across the stone walls. A few people kneel on the worn boards, their fingers laced tight, knuckles white with either guilt or fear. You can't always tell the difference here. You move toward the back, the twigs still under your arm. There's no space for baskets, so you set it carefully near a dusty alcove and brush your hands on your tunic. The familiar gritty sound of fabric against dry skin echoes louder than expected. Everything echoes in here, every cough, every shift of weight, every whispered sin. The priest stands near the front, robed in faded red and gold. He looks tired. His face is weathered, lined deeply not just by age, but by the weight of listening. Every day, he hears the quiet rot in people's hearts, envy, anger, despair, strange dreams. He hears about stolen turnips and unkind words, about cursed neighbors and buried secrets. You wonder what it does to a person, collecting that much sorrow. Your turn comes. You kneel in the side alcove, barely big enough to hold your knees and your guilt. The wood creaks under your weight, and you clear your throat. A small curtain shifts. He's there, just a breath away. He says nothing. He waits. So you begin. The usual. A small lie to avoid work. A curse whispered under your breath when the taxman took the piglet. An angry thought toward a brother. Unspoken but sharp. You mention envy of those who have softer beds, warmer meals, children who don't cough in their sleep. You mention your fear of winter, your fear of famine, your fear that you're starting to hope less. There's a pause. On the other side, the priest exhales, and in that breath, something softens in you. He speaks, voice low and gravelly. He gives you a psalm to recite 3 times, and a candle to light. You nod, though you still haven't made peace with the candle's cost. Wax isn't cheap. And everything that burns here is measured in coin or labor. You light it anyway. The flame flickers uncertainly. Like you rise slowly, knees complaining again, and step back into the main space. The chapel holds no chairs, just stone, earth, and the hum of human worry. You pass a statue of the Virgin, her painted eyes worn down by centuries of pleading stares. Her hands are outstretched, chipped at the fingertips, as if reaching for you, or maybe just waiting. You murmur a silent thanks, unsure if it's for forgiveness or just for surviving this long. Historians still argue how deeply medieval people feared damnation. Was it true belief or societal pressure? Either way, confession mattered. It was a reset button in a world with few safety nets. Confession gave structure to chaos, a rhythm to guilt. You step outside again, blinking in the light. It's brighter now, but the sky has that heavy look, clouds hanging low like they're considering their next move. Your twigs wait by the door. You pick them up and start the walk back home. Your boots crunching over gravel. Your thoughts caught between sin and supper. A neighbor catches up to you. He's a younger man, wide-eyed and always slightly out of breath. He asks what the priest said. You shrug. Pray. Be kind. Don't punch the tax collector. He laughs. That last one's the hardest. The two of you walk in silence for a while. It's a companionable quiet, the kind you share with someone who understands you're kind of tired. The wind lifts your hair slightly, brings the scent of barley fields and something sweet, honey. Maybe, or just the memory of it. You think about the candle, still burning, still whispering up its smoke in a language no one quite understands. Back home, the day has moved on without you. Someone's chasing a goose that wandered inside. A girl sits weaving straw into a crude mat. A dog naps near the fire, one ear twitching at invisible threads. You set the twigs down by the hearth and stretch again. Your arms feel heavy, but less so than before. The weight of confession, perhaps, or just the relief of not having to carry everything alone, even if only for a moment. You sit. The fire pops. Embers crackle like quiet laughter. Your stomach reminds you, it's still lunch, even if there's little to eat. You're handed a bowl, barley stew, thin and lukewarm. Still, the warmth soothes your hands. You eat slowly, savoring the few soft pieces of root vegetable floating inside. You chew deliberately, not out of manners, but to make it last. Across the table, someone is humming, a tune you've heard since childhood, passed down like recipes and superstition. You hum along without meaning to. In the stillness of the room, with the fire crackling and the stew warming your belly, you feel, briefly, impossibly, content. But outside, the clouds are shifting, and just as you close your eyes for a moment of peace, the wind howls like a warning through the cracks in the wall. A storm is coming. The first raindrop hits the roof like a fingertip tapping on a drum. Then another. Then many. Within moments, the whole cottage is wrapped in a steady, rhythmic patter, a song you've known your entire life. Rain in the Middle Ages doesn't just mean wet feet. It means mud. It means mold. It means whatever fragile dryness you fought for today is already being undone. You move to the door and peek outside. The village path has transformed almost instantly into a brown slush, thick, sticky, and hungry. Your boots sink half an inch just stepping off the threshold. The wind stings your face like a wet slap, and your cloak does a poor job of pretending it's waterproof. It flaps, it leaks, it sticks to your neck like a wet towel that hates you. You pull the hood tighter. It doesn't help. Nothing does, really. But you have work to finish, always. The field's edge needs securing. The wood pile must be covered. And that window shutter you swore you'd fix 3 months ago is now banging in the wind like it's trying to take flight. You step back inside to grab a piece of rope, your best rope. Which isn't saying much. It's frayed at both ends and smells like something that once lived in it. But it'll do. You loop it over your shoulder. Brace yourself. And charge back into the storm. The mud sucks at your shoes with every step. It makes a noise, a squelching, hungry slurp. That sounds like something from a bad dream. Your hands already ache from the morning. And now the cold air slices into your knuckles like little knives. You keep moving. At the shed, the shutter bangs again. Clack, clack, clack. The wood is swollen with rain and splintering at the corners. You press it closed with your shoulder, teeth gritted, as the wind tries to argue with you. With numb fingers, you tie the rope, wrapping it twice around the rusty hinge. The knot holds. Barely. You stand back, soaked through. Water drips from your sleeves. Your hair is plastered to your forehead. You blink and the rain stings your eyes. You're cold, but worse, you're tired. Bone deep tired. The kind of tired that has nothing to do with sleep and everything to do with existing. A child runs past barefoot, laughing, trailing a wooden hoop on a stick. How they still have energy in this weather is one of life's great unsolved mysteries. You head toward the woodpile next. It's uncovered, of course. Because the tarp tore last week and no one's had time, or cloth, to fix it. You grab armfuls of the driest wood and pile them under the eaves. Hoping it'll be enough for the evening fire. Everything else? Already damp, already doomed. As you stack the last log, thunder grumbles low in the distance, less a crack, more a giant shifting in its sleep. You flinch, just slightly, even though it's familiar. Storms like this roll in fast and heavy, dumping their weight and leaving the earth twice as heavy behind. Historians still argue about just how dependent medieval people were on weather patterns. But they agree on this: one bad season could ruin everything. One ruined crop meant empty bellies. One storm like this could wash away not just soil, but hope. You take a deep breath, wet, earthy, tinged with smoke from neighboring chimneys, and step back toward the house. Your legs are lead, your shoulders slump. Inside, the fire is going again. Weak but warm. You kneel by it, extending your hands, trying to bring sensation back to your fingers. They look like someone else's, red, swollen, trembling slightly. The others are already gathered. One mends a shoe by firelight. Another stitches a tear in a tunic. The youngest sleeps in the corner, thumb in mouth, dreams hopefully drier than reality. Your mother, or maybe your aunt, offers you a cup. It's warm ale. Again, but it's warm. You nod in thanks and sip. It tastes slightly sour, slightly bitter, slightly comforting, like most things here. The wind moans through the cracks in the walls. You hear it press against the cottage like an impatient guest. Somewhere, water is dripping, tick, 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 into a bowl that's been catching leaks since before you could walk. You pull off your boots and lay them by the hearth. They steam faintly, like they're offended by their own dampness. Your feet sting as they thaw, the cold chased out slowly by fire and friction. You curl your toes and flex them. It hurts, but it's good pain, living pain. A shadow passes the window. You look up. Just a neighbor on their way home. Cloak billowing like a sail caught in the storm. You nod, even though they can't see you. A shared moment. We're all in this. Someone begins to tell a story. It's always during storms that the tales come out. Something about thunder makes people remember. Tonight's story is about a man who dared challenge the wind and lost. Another tale of pride and punishment. Twisted into folklore. It makes everyone quiet. But no one looks surprised. Your eyes droop slightly. The fire crackles. Rain drums steadily above. And the voice of the storyteller becomes a lullaby of hardship and old warnings. You sip the rest of your ale, letting it warm you from the inside. Your tunic is still wet. Your back still aches. Your hands are still raw. But you're inside. You're safe. For now. And just as the storyteller finishes their tale, with a wink and a warning about talking to trees during storms, you hear a new noise outside. Voices. Raised. And then, a sharp cry. You set your cup down and stand. Because something's happening at the center of the village. The cry wasn't playful. It had no laughter in it. It cut through the sound of rain like a knife through wool. Sharp and panicked, you step into your boots, still damp, still sullen, and grab your cloak. Heavy with the scent of smoke and wet sheep. Your fingers fumble with the latch on the door. But before you can lift it, someone else throws it open from outside. It's Tom, younger than you by a few years. Soaked to the bone, eyes wide. They've taken Elric. He gasps. By order of the Reeve. You don't speak. Not yet. Your mind is running, flipping through memory like pages in a damp book. Elric the carpenter's son. Quiet, clever, rarely seen without a knife and a splinter of wood in his hand. Why would the reeve? What for? You ask. Your voice feels strange in your mouth after so much silence. Stealing, Tom replies, panting. They say he took grain from the Lord's storehouse. The storm rumbles above you. But it sounds far away now. You follow Tom into the village center, where others are gathering, faces half hidden under cloaks and hoods. Eyes uncertain. Rain slides from roofs in thick sheets. Mud grabs at your ankles with every step. Cold and clingy, you push forward. There, near the old stocks, you see them. Elric stands surrounded, 2 guards, the reeve, and a small crowd keeping cautious distance. His tunic is ripped at the sleeve. His face is pale, hair stuck to his cheeks. He's not shouting, not even crying, just standing with this haunted stillness, like he's already halfway gone. The reeve, a short man with too much confidence and not enough neck, unrolls a parchment and reads the charge. The words tumble out: theft, trespass, betrayal of feudal duty, all delivered in that flat, official tone that makes everything sound final. No one interrupts, because no one ever interrupts. You look around. People shift their weight, murmur to each other, but no one steps forward. Even Elric's father stands in silence, his jaw set like a locked door. You clench your fists, feeling your fingernails dig into your palms. You know Elric. He wouldn't have stolen, not unless he was desperate. But desperation is common here, and justice is a game played with uneven dice. The punishment isn't a hanging. Not this time. It's public humiliation, 3 days in the stocks. Regardless of rain, no cloak, no food unless someone sneaks it, which they often don't. The guards pull him roughly toward the platform. The stocks creak open, old wood, darkened by weather and time. Elric doesn't resist. He kneels, places his head and wrists into place. They slam shut with a sound that makes the crowd flinch. You stand there, soaked through, heart pounding in your chest like a drum played by an angry child. There's nothing you can do. Not really. Even pity feels like a kind of betrayal now. Historians still debate whether public punishment was more about justice or control. Maybe both, maybe neither. What's clear is that it worked, not by changing the criminal, but by frightening the witnesses. The reeve turns, satisfied, and begins to dismiss the crowd with a wave. But no one moves right away. Because now, all eyes are on Elric, locked in place. Rain dripping down his back. Eyes closed tight. Not ashamed, just enduring, as everyone here is trained to do. You pull your cloak tighter. A woman next to you mutters, "Better him than my boy." You don't answer, but the words stick. You step away slowly, back toward the house, back toward your small fire and smaller supper. Rain still falls, thunder still grumbles, but inside your chest, something else is building, a dull, heavy ache, not quite anger, not quite fear, just the realization that, in this world, safety is borrowed, and the debt is always due. Back home, you drop your cloak by the door and hang it on a bent nail. You wring out your sleeves. Your hands shake, not from cold, but from everything else. The others are quiet. They've heard. News here moves faster than wind. No one speaks Elric's name, but everyone glances at the door, at the storm, at the wall where shadows flicker. You return to the fire, crouch low, and stretch out your palms. They're red, raw, still sore from the fields, still stinging from the rope earlier. Your thoughts drift, half memory, half dream, to the piglet, to the taxman, to the piece of pottery in your belt, to the stew with barely any flavor, to the crow that watched you this morning, and to Elric, still outside, locked in place, the storm soaking him just as it soaks the thatch and the soil and the trees. You feel something then, not pity, not exactly. It's too tired for that. It's the understanding that you're not far from that stock yourself. One bad day, one bad choice, or not even a choice, just bad luck. And just as your eyes begin to burn, and your stomach curls in frustration, the fire flares, and someone speaks. Not loudly, but clearly. They say, "We can't keep living like this." You look up, around. The faces in the room are quiet, reflective, no arguments, just slow nods, or nothing at all. It's a dangerous thing to say, but not untrue. The rain eases, just slightly, like the storm is catching its breath. You listen to the crackle of the fire, the ticking of the leak into the bowl, the hush of people not knowing what to do next. And you wonder, how long can any of this last? The rain stops sometime after midnight, but you only notice when you wake to the silence. That's strange, pressing quiet after a storm, when the world holds its breath. And the damp air settles in like an extra blanket. You shift beneath your cloak, still wrapped around you, still damp, still not quite warm. Someone nearby snores gently. The fire's reduced to embers, glowing faintly in the hearth like tired eyes refusing to close. You sit up, joints creaking, hair sticking to one side of your face. The room smells of wet wool, smoke, and onions. Always onions. You scratch your neck absently and stand. The floor cool and slick under your bare feet. You walk outside. The village is draped in mist. Not the gentle kind, but thick and low, pooling in the streets like ghostly water. The ground squishes under your steps. The mud has claimed every path, every boot print, every intention. It clings to the air, to the trees, to your soul. And there, in the middle of it all, still locked in place, Elric. He's slumped forward, hair plastered to his skull, arms hanging like soaked laundry. His tunic clings to him, twisted and dark. You can't see his face, just the rise and fall of his back. Still breathing, barely. You approach slowly. The stalks glisten with moisture. The wood has swollen in the rain, tightening around his wrists and neck. You stop a few feet away. "Elric," you whisper. He doesn't move. You glance around. No guards, no reeve, just mist, chickens roosting nearby, and the sound of a cow shifting in its stall. The world, for now, isn't watching. You kneel, pull your cloak tighter around yourself, and sit in the mud beside him. You don't say anything more. You don't touch him. You just stay. Because sometimes, that's all there is left to offer. Witness. You hear a door creak open. Another villager peeks out, sees you, sees him, and slowly, hesitantly, brings a crust of bread, sets it near his feet, and vanishes back inside. One by one, more small acts follow. A strip of cloth, a flask, a muttered prayer. No one talks, no one dares, but the message is clear. We see you. You're still ours. Historians still argue about community dynamics in medieval villages, whether people truly looked out for one another or just competed for survival. But when the system turned brutal, it was usually the silent kindnesses, the hidden bread, the watched fires, the shared secrets, that kept people whole. Eventually, you return to your home, shoulders heavy with mud and thought. You sleep in pieces, shallow, shifting rest, dreams flickering like candlelight behind your eyes. And then it's morning again. No trumpets, no rooster this time, just the groan of waking bones, the smell of smoke, the low voices of people trying not to speak too loudly. You dress in the same tunic, now slightly stiffer from yesterday's dampness. Your boots resist your feet, swollen with mud and memories. You splash water on your face, shivering as it runs down your neck. Outside, the mist is lifting. The sun pushes through, a pale disk behind a veil of cloud. The village is reshaped again. Every day it becomes a little different, yet always the same. You join a small group walking to the well. It's a shared labor. And today, it's your turn. The buckets creak on the yoke across your shoulders. Every step forward feels like the weight of centuries is pressing down on your spine. When you reach the well, you see the sky reflected at the bottom, bright, unreachable, and far away. You lower the bucket. The rope groans, the pulley squeals, and your hands tighten, calluses catching on the frayed hemp. You draw up the water, cool, clear, and absolutely precious. Even in its simplicity, it feels like a victory. You carry it back, step by step, shoulders aching. The path is slightly drier now. But the mud still sucks at your boots like it has a personal vendetta. You make it back without spilling too much. At the house, someone smiles as you arrive. You hand off the water, roll your shoulders, and sit. Your hands sting again. You look down, new blisters, splitting across old ones. Your skin looks like a poorly repaired book. Every crease a crack in a forgotten story. You press your palms to your knees and close your eyes. And that's when you hear the commotion. Voices, running feet, the sharp crack of something wooden snapping. You leap up, heart in your throat, and rush outside. It's Elric. They've released him. He stumbles forward, arms cradled to his chest, eyes blinking against the morning light. Someone wraps a cloak around his shoulders. Another offers water. The Reeve is nowhere in sight. No apology, no explanation, just freedom. You approach him carefully. He looks at you, really looks at you. Eyes sunken, but still burning. He nods once, and in that moment, you feel something shift, not in the ground, or in the law, or in the power of the Lord, but in the people, in the unspoken agreement that this was too much. One woman, standing nearby, whispers, "If they take another one of ours." She doesn't finish. She doesn't need to, because everyone already knows. And just as the sun finally breaks fully through the clouds, you exhale, long, slow, heavy, the kind of breath you didn't know you'd been holding for days. But you don't have long to rest, because it's nearly time for church bells again. And those fields, wet or not, won't tend themselves. You're back in the fields before noon, boots still squelching with every step, knees still aching like you borrowed them from someone much older. The sun has come out at last, not strong enough to dry the mud, but enough to make you squint. Everything is brighter now, but it's the kind of brightness that reveals how much of the land has been washed out. Furrows flattened, rows drowned, hopes diluted. You take your place again, shoulders low, hands clutching the handle of your hoe. It's not sharp, it never is, but it's enough to break soil and lift weeds. You fall into rhythm, swing, dig, twist, breathe. Mud clings to your legs like wet cloth. Your hands sting from open blisters, reopened now and stinging like open mouths screaming with each motion. Around you, others move with the same quiet energy. No one talks. There's nothing to say. You're all tired in the same way. Like every breath is pulled uphill. The storm has passed, but it left pieces of itself behind, soaked tunics, broken fence rails, and that strange heaviness in everyone's chest. Not sadness, not quite, just the fatigue of existing beneath a system that takes, and sometimes leaves you standing. Somewhere behind you, someone sneezes, loud, wet, unrestrained. You pause. A few heads turn. The man who sneezed is older. Not ancient, but past his fighting years. He wipes his nose on his sleeve and mutters something about the weather. No one says anything, but a few step back. Slightly. The fear is subtle. Not panic, just that slow, spreading awareness that sickness travels like gossip in a village this size. It doesn't need permission. It doesn't knock. It just shows up and empties your house before moving to the next. You return to your work. Historians still debate whether peasants truly understood disease in any meaningful way. Germs weren't known, but patterns were. When one cough became two, people paid attention. When the healer's house filled, people prayed harder. Someone ties a cloth over their mouth. Another rubs rosemary on their palms. These are charms, habits, desperate stabs at protection. You have none, just a breath you try to hold, and a prayer you mouth under your breath. You dig harder. The sweat dripping into your eyes isn't just from labor now, it's fear. Real, quiet fear. And yet, life keeps moving. A child runs past with a stick pretending it's a sword. He swings it at imaginary foes and yells something valiant. You smile despite yourself. His joy is too stubborn to be stopped. At midday, someone calls for a break. You sit on a stone near the hedge. stretching out your legs and leaning back. The sky is clearer now. The clouds have pulled apart like clumps of wet wool, and you can see patches of blue. The sun, while weak, still warms your cheek. You close your eyes. For a moment, there's peace, until a fly lands on your lip. You swipe it away, annoyed, then laugh, because of course. You pull a cloth-wrapped bundle from your belt. Inside, bread, hard as a stone, with a crust sharp enough to cut. You chew slowly, carefully. Every bite is a battle, but it fills your stomach, if not your spirit. A few others sit near you. Tom, the old man who keeps bees. A girl who can catch fish with her hands. No one speaks at first. You just eat, together, apart. Then someone mentions Elric. How's he doing? Tom asks softly. He hasn't spoken much, replies the girl. Still shakes. You nod. The memory of him in the stocks flashes in your mind, soaked. Shivering, head bowed like a broken tree. He'll come back, you say, though you don't know. He's strong. Someone murmurs an agreement. Another says nothing, but no one disagrees. After a while, the break ends. You rise again, knees protesting. You get back to work. A gust of wind sends dust and pollen swirling through the air. You cough. So does someone else. You glance back at the old man. He's sweating now. His hands shake. No one says anything out loud, but everyone sees it. Later, you're walking home, the hose slung over your shoulder like a limp arm. The sun's almost down, dragging golden light across the rooftops. Everything looks softer now. Even the mud glows in places. Your back throbs with every step. At the edge of the village, you spot Elric again. He's sitting by the well. Still pale, still quiet, but upright. You walk over and sit beside him. You don't speak, neither does he. A few moments pass. Then he says, quietly, "Do you think they'll take another?" It's not a question for you. Really, it's a question for the sky. For the gods. For anyone. You answer anyway. Maybe, but we'll be ready. He looks at you. His eyes are tired, but not empty. You think it matters? He asks. You shrug. Not to them, but maybe to us. He nods. Once. Slowly. You both sit there until the light fades. And just as you stand to leave, a cool breeze picks up and brushes past your face. Not cruel. Not warm. Just there. A reminder that, even here, even now, the world keeps moving. Night falls slowly, as if even the darkness is reluctant to return. The last hints of sunlight slip away behind the distant hills, and the sky turns the color of worn wool, soft grays and deepening blues stitched together with a few early stars. You walk home under that quiet sky, the village lit by the pale flicker of hearths and the occasional lantern swinging gently from a crooked hook. The air is damp again, thick with the scent of moss and smoke. Somewhere, someone is burning peat. It's a sour, earthy smell, like rain-soaked earth mixed with ash. Familiar, not pleasant, not awful, just part of the fabric of the evening. You step into your home and close the door behind you with a dull thud. Inside, the warmth is thin but welcome. The fire has been stirred back to life. Its small flames licking the sides of the blackened pot that hangs over the coals. Something simmers inside, something with barley. Or maybe cabbage, or maybe both depending on what could be spared today. You sit near the hearth, pulling off your boots with a groan. Your feet are damp, your toes tender. When you stretch your legs toward the fire, you can feel the warmth slowly creeping back in, like the world apologizing for what it put you through today. Dinner is quiet, there's little to go around, but what's there is shared. A few scraps of carrot, some tough greens, thin broth, and a crust of bread you have to soak in the soup just to chew. But there's something about eating with others, even in silence, that softens the edge of hunger. A child sits on your lap, head against your shoulder, already half asleep. Their breath is slow and warm. They smell like hay and wood smoke and the faint sweetness of something sticky they probably shouldn't have eaten. You don't mind. Someone coughs. Not the soft kind, the deep, Rattling kind that vibrates in the walls of your chest. Heads turn. Eyes flicker toward the source. It's the old man, the one from the field. His face is pale, his brow damp with sweat. He waves a hand, trying to smile. Just the rain, he whispers. But the room is different now. You feel it, that tension, like something invisible just entered the house and sat down with you at the fire. After dinner, people settle. The children curl together under rough blankets. Someone sharpens a blade by firelight. Someone else braids a broken bit of rope. Life continues, always, but the cough echoes in your ears. You step outside for air. The night is colder now. The stars are out in full, scattered across the sky like crumbs from the gods' table. You lean against the doorframe, listening. The village is still, except for the soft sounds, hooves shifting in stables, a creaky shutter slapping gently against a wall, the low murmur of someone's evening prayers. And far off, barely audible, a chant. You strain your ears. It's the chapel, a vigil. You follow the sound, your feet moving before you quite decide to. The ground is slick, but the path is familiar. A few others walk ahead of you. Cloaked, hooded, no one speaks. This kind of gathering doesn't need words. Inside the chapel, the candles are lit again. Dozens of them. Their glow turns the stone walls golden. Like something precious was melted and painted across the room. People sit in silence, kneeling, heads bowed. A low voice recites a psalm. Another cough. Not the same as before, but it's enough to make the room hold its breath. The priest steps forward, raises his hand, and speaks quietly about mercy, about endurance, about the coming winter. He doesn't offer hope, he offers understanding, which is sometimes more useful. You sit in the back, hands folded, eyes on the flickering flames. You feel the warmth on your face, and for a moment, the ache in your legs eases. You listen as someone behind you starts a soft chant. Others join in. It's not in Latin, you've never learned that. But you know the tune. It's old, older than the church, older than your name, older than the road that leads to the next village. It speaks of darkness and light, of cold and fire, of suffering and rest. Historians still argue whether these gatherings were more spiritual or social. But for you, right now, it is a gathering of bodies, breathing, aching, hoping. That's all it needs to be. Eventually, the chant fades. One by one, people leave. You step out last. The stars are brighter now. The clouds have vanished. You look up, and you wonder, not for the first time, if anyone up there is listening. Back home, the fire has burned low. The old man is sleeping now. A damp cloth on his forehead. His breath is shallow but steady. You hope he wakes tomorrow. But you also know, not everyone will. You lay down beside the hearth. Cloak over your shoulders. Hands folded beneath your cheek. The stone beneath you is cold. The air is colder. But for now, you sleep. And just as you drift off, the wind outside rustles through the trees like a voice too tired to speak. You wake to the sound of dripping, steady, deliberate, like someone tapping a spoon against the edge of a bowl. At first, your mind tries to make it into something familiar, something harmless. But as your eyes open, bleary and unfocused, you see the bowl near the hearth, catching water from the ceiling once again. The leak has returned, and the drip is slower now only because the rain outside is thinner. Not gone, just resting. You sit up, stiff as ever. Your neck cracks as you turn your head, and your spine lets out a small complaint. The floor beneath you is gritty, faintly damp, and hard. Your blanket has tangled around your legs in the night, and your tunic has bunched up beneath your ribs. Cold against your skin, you shift, stretch, yawn, then stop. It's quiet, too quiet. No morning clatter, no pot clanking, no babies crying or hens protesting their morning confinement. Just the occasional gust of wind and the long pause between drips. Then the cough comes again. From the corner, you turn your head slowly. The old man is awake, but only barely. His chest rises in short, shallow bursts. His eyes are glassy, half-lidded, not quite seeing. The cloth on his forehead has dried. His lips are cracked. He tries to sit up, and a wheeze escapes his throat. You're at his side in an instant. Easy, you whisper, placing a hand on his shoulder. It's hot, burning. You call out, softly. Then louder. Others stir. Blankets shift. One by one, faces appear, sleepy and concerned. No one asks what's wrong. They can see it, smell it, feel it. Someone brings water. He sips. Barely. A drop escapes the corner of his mouth. His breath rattles in his throat like something trapped in the chimney. You don't cry. Not yet. Because you've seen this before. You all have. Someone whispers, "Should we fetch the priest?" Someone else mutters, "It's too late." He coughs again. And this time, there's blood. Bright. Fresh. Unmistakable. You turn your head. Not in horror. In grief. In recognition. Outside, the wind rises again. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Later that morning, the village gathers. They don't need to be told. Word travels faster than hooves. When death comes, everyone knows within minutes. He's laid out on the table by the hearth. A simple wool cloth covers his body. His hands are folded, the fingers stiff and pale. Someone placed a small wooden cross between them. Someone else scattered dried lavender at his feet. Not for beauty, for smell. For memory. The priest arrives. Hood up, face drawn. He carries a vial of holy water and a satchel of herbs. He blesses the space, the body, the silence. The words fall softly, like ash. No one says much. There are no eulogies, only breath, and footsteps, and glances. You step outside as the sun climbs. It doesn't feel like a new day. The air is sharp, brittle with cold. Your breath clouds around your face. A chicken scratches the dirt by your boot and clucks absently. Life continues, as it always does, without permission. Elric joins you, quietly. His eyes are rimmed with shadows. But his shoulders are straighter today. You both stand, watching as smoke from the chimney curls upward, then disappears into the sky. Was he the first? He asks. You shake your head. Not the first. Just the first this season. He nods once, jaw tight. Will they mark the door? He asks. You don't answer. But you both know. Maybe. If more get sick. If fear starts to outweigh compassion. Marking a door means warning others. It means isolation. It means the healer won't come. It means food will be left at the edge of the path. Untouched by human hands. It means being alone, even in a village full of people. You head to the fields anyway. Because the earth doesn't stop for death. The sky is pale, and the soil is slick. But the work is the same. Pulling, hoeing, lifting, stacking. You keep your head down. You let your body move the way it knows how. You hear someone cough again, another man. Not the same, but close. You don't react. You just keep digging. At midday, someone offers you bread. You take it. It's stale, dry enough to make your gums ache. You eat it anyway. You don't speak to anyone. Not because you're angry. Because you're afraid that if you open your mouth, the grief might come pouring out like floodwater through a broken dam. Back home, the fire is lower than usual. The air inside is heavy. You press your back to the wall and sit. The stone is cold through your tunic. The body is gone now. Wrapped and taken toward the chapel. The burial will be quiet. No ceremony. Just shovels and silence. You hear footsteps on the roof, someone checking the thatch. Trying to patch the leak. Life doesn't stop. It shifts. Someone sits beside you. It's the woman who makes cheese. She doesn't speak either. She just hands you a small bundle, cloth wrapped. Inside, a bit of smoked fish. Probably half her family's rations for the week. You look at her. She shrugs. We're all next anyway. She says, might as well eat. You nod. You unwrap it. You take a bite. It tastes like salt and defiance. The sky darkens early that day. Clouds return, drawn by something you can't see. The wind begins again. And just as you start to rest, eyes half closed, body aching, spirit flickering like a candle, someone knocks at the door. Once. Twice. Slow. Hollow. You rise. You answer. Outside stands a stranger. A traveler. Cloaked. Hooded. Face hidden. And you realize, with a quiet chill, that it's been a long time since someone new came to the village. The traveler stands at the threshold like a story that hasn't decided how to end. His cloak is long, soaked at the hem, patched in places with fabric from too many regions to name. A bundle hangs from his back, modest in size, but heavy in meaning. He doesn't speak right away. He simply looks at you. You search his face, but the hood hides most of it. You catch a glimpse of weathered skin, a tangled beard, and eyes that do not blink often. Eyes that have seen hunger and distance, and maybe too many graves. Evening, he says, finally. His voice is quiet, dry, like leaves brushed over stone. You nod. You're far from the road. Road disappeared about 5 miles back. He replies, turned into a swamp with opinions. You almost smile. Almost. Behind you, others stir. A few steps toward the door. A few backward. Elric appears near the hearth. Brow furrowed. You glance at the stranger again. You alone? You ask. Long enough to prefer company. It's not an answer. Exactly. But nothing he's said so far is. You step aside, let him in, and suddenly, everything inside feels smaller, like the room itself inhaled. The firelight flickers across his cloak, casting patterns across the walls. He lowers his hood, revealing a face that might have once been kind, but now mostly looks tired. He shrugs off his pack, sets it near the door, and lets out a long breath, like he's been holding it for miles. You see a dagger at his belt, worn but polished, a pouch of herbs at his side. His boots are wrapped in rags, fraying at the seams. He's not rich, but he's not empty either. Name? Someone asks from the corner. He doesn't answer right away, just looks toward the fire. Some call me Marn, he says. That'll do. Marn. The name rolls around the room, heavy with possibility. He's offered stew, thinner than usual, but hot. He accepts it with a grateful nod. You notice the way he eats, slow, deliberate, respectful, like he understands the price of the bowl. You come from the south? You ask. He nods, chewing. News? He swallows, then wipes his mouth with a sleeve. There's illness moving through the valleys. He says plainly, quicker than before, hits the lungs, leaves people gasping. Everyone falls silent. But, he adds, some villages are faring better. The ones who boil their water, sleep apart, share less. The words land like stones on a frozen pond. You glance toward the back room, where the old man slept, where others now avoid stepping, where shadows linger a little longer than they should. You a healer? Elric asks. Marn lifts the herb pouch at his belt. Of sorts. He opens it gently, releasing the scent of rosemary, sage, garlic, something bitter and burnt. He gestures to the herbs. Charm or cure? Depends on what you believe, he says, but they help. Sometimes. He's invited to stay the night. No one says it directly, but no one needs to. The cot near the wall is cleared. A blanket is offered. He accepts it all with quiet gratitude. As the fire dims, Marn shares stories, not dramatic ones. Just pieces of roads he's walked. A village with silver wells. A boy who made shoes from bark and walked all the way to the sea. A woman who swore by onion poultices and lived to bury 3 husbands. You listen, head tilted, eyes half closed. There's something soothing about his voice. Not warm exactly, but steady. Honest, like wind passing through an empty field. And in one of his stories, he mentions a monastery, far north, remote, stone-walled and self-sustaining. The monks there grow everything they need. They teach herbal cures. They trade tinctures for flour and rest. Some say their chapel never felt a plague. You sit up straighter. Where? You ask. He shrugs. 2 weeks by foot. If the weather's kind. You exchange a glance with Elric. 2 weeks. Far, but not impossible. The fire cracks. Sparks leap. You tuck that thought away. For now. Later that night, Marn sleeps curled near the hearth, face to the fire, hand still resting on the hilt of his knife. Not from mistrust, from habit. You stay awake longer than usual, staring at the roof, listening to the slow breathing of everyone in the room. You wonder if he's lying, or hoping, or both. Historians still wonder how much knowledge moved by foot in those days, whether stories carried more truth than scripture. But in a world without maps, without letters, without trust in kings, sometimes the only thing that traveled faster than death was a rumor of healing. You close your eyes and dream, not of fields, or frost, or even fear, but of a stone monastery, perched high, surrounded by stillness, and a bell, ringing softly in the cold air. The morning breaks pale and pale again, cloud-filtered light that spills across your eyelids like a sigh. You wake slowly, body sore in the usual places, and something tighter in your shoulders today. Something like restlessness, or maybe anticipation. You sit up and blink toward the hearth. Marn is already awake. He sits cross-legged by the fire, legs wrapped in his cloak, sipping something from a wooden cup. He's brewed it from the pouch of herbs at his hip. The smell hits you gently, sharp rosemary, crushed thyme, a faint thread of garlic and smoke. He nods at you as you rise, helps clear the lungs. He murmurs. You nod back, still groggy, throat dry. He offers the cup. You hesitate, then sip. It's bitter, a little oily, but it warms your chest like fire. The others begin to stir. One by one, they sit up, stretch, reach for boots and tunics still damp from yesterday. There's a new energy in the room, not joy, not ease, but alertness, like a string pulled taut. The woman who makes cheese eyes Marn carefully. You staying long? Just until the road feels friendly again. He replies. Might be a while. She grunts. That's enough. You step outside. The air is crisper today, drier. Too. The puddles have pulled back, and the mud is less like soup and more like glue. You walk toward the well, bucket in hand, enjoying the brief sensation of sunlight on your face. A breeze carries the smell of wet wood and ash and something sweeter. Clover, maybe, or someone's bread, still dreaming in an oven. You pull up the water and carry it back, arms trembling by the end. Inside, a small breakfast is forming, a few oats. One lonely apple cut 6 ways. A pot of warm herbs for the sick. Elric slices the bread. Tom stokes the fire. No one talks much. They don't need to. After the meal, Marn opens his pack and begins pulling things out. Bundles wrapped in waxed cloth. Tiny jars. Dried leaves. Bits of bark. Twisted roots. The children gather first, curious eyes. Sticky hands. Then the adults, more cautious. He lays them on the table like relics from another world. This one's for fever, he says, touching a dusty root. This helps sleep. This, if boiled long enough, might ease a bad cough. He holds up a tiny vial, deep green, the color of moss after rain. And this one, he adds, you don't use unless you've got no other choice. What does it do? You ask. He doesn't answer, just sets it down carefully and moves on. You watch, entranced, as he crushes leaves into powder with a stone, mixes a tincture with steady hands. Everything he does seems small, insignificant, almost, but there's precision, intention, a kind of reverence. He isn't just making medicine. He's making hope. Historians still puzzle over how much common people really knew of healing back then. But you've lived the question. You know, when priests stop answering, and the soil gives you nothing but roots. Sometimes a man with herbs and silence is more powerful than any lord. By mid-morning, the sick are gathered, 3 now. Not just the old man, who's already passed, but 2 others showing signs. Pale cheeks, burning brows, shallow breath. Marn sits with them one at a time, listens to their chest, feels their pulse, presses a bundle of herbs to their necks. Sometimes he mutters, sometimes he simply watches. You help where you can. Water, cloth, The quiet reassurance of presence. One woman's eyes flutter in and out of focus. She grabs your wrist. "Am I going to die?" she asks. Her voice more air than sound. You pause. And you say, "Not today." It's a lie. Or maybe not. The line is always blurry. Back outside. The sun is stronger. You hang cloaks to dry. Spread grain to air out. Clear straw from the corners where dampness hides. Elric helps patch the roof. A few others dig a shallow trench behind the house to carry away water. It's not ceremony. Just work. But it feels different today. Not easier. Just less alone. Later, you sit with Marn near the fire. He offers you another sip of that bitter brew. You accept. "Where did you learn all this?" you ask. He shrugs. "Everywhere. From old women with no teeth. From books with no covers. From people who survived things they weren't supposed to." You nod. "That makes sense. Did you ever think about stopping?" you ask. After a pause, he stares into the flames. "Every day," he says, "but the road's easier than standing still." He says it like it's nothing. You think about that all night. When you lie down, the firelight dances across the beams above your head. You hear someone coughing still, softly, but there's less fear in it tonight. You hear Marn whispering in the corner, repeating a list of herbs like a bedtime spell. And just as your breath begins to slow, and the sounds of the room fade into your dreams, you remember something from one of his stories. That monastery. 2 weeks away. Stone walls. Healing hands. A place where sickness doesn't win. You wonder if it's real. And you wonder if you might go. The morning begins not with sunlight, but with decision. You wake before the others. Your body aching from the usual places, hips, shoulders, back, but there's something different inside your chest. Not exactly resolve, not exactly fear, something between. The thought of the monastery has taken root, and now it won't leave you alone. You rise, slow and quiet. The fire is mostly embers, casting soft orange shadows against the walls. You wrap your cloak around your shoulders and slip outside into the half-light. The village is hushed. Even the animals seem to hold their breath. The well glistens with dew. The thatch roof steamed gently under the first touch of warmth. Somewhere, a single bird sings. One note, then silence. You walk toward the edge of the village. Boots squishing faintly in the damp grass. Heart ticking louder with every step. When you reach the ridge, your thinking place, you sit. From here you can see the road. The one that leads away. It's not paved, not marked. Just a trampled suggestion through the trees and heather. The kind of path that looks easy until you're halfway and realize you're more alone than ever before. You pick up a stone. Turn it in your hand. Smooth on one side, jagged on the other. You think, maybe I go. Maybe we go. 2 weeks. If the weather holds. You think about the sick. About the children. About Elric. Still too thin. Still flinching when someone moves too fast. About the old man's silence. The way his hands cooled before his breath did. You hear footsteps behind you. It's Marn. He sits beside you without speaking. Just pulls his cloak tighter and stares at the road with you. After a long time, he says, "You're thinking about leaving." You nod. "I was too. Once," he says, "but I took too long. And when I finally left, there was nothing to come back to." The wind shifts. A curl of mist rises from the valley. "What happened?" you ask. He shrugs. "Plague. Or bandits. Or both." You stop asking when the answers don't change anything. You both sit with that a while. Finally, you ask, "Do you think the monastery is real?" He smiles without showing teeth. "I think someone believes in it. And that's enough to make it worth walking toward." You think of maps, of distance, of fear, of the aching in your legs after a single day's work, of the unknown, and what it might ask of you. And you think of the firelight last night, the shared silence, the coughs. You glance at Marn. "Would you come?" He pauses. "I've been running so long. I forgot what it meant to walk with someone." That sounds close to yes. You both return to the village. Quiet and thoughtful. At breakfast, You watch people closely. Every twitch, every wince. You start to imagine who would make it 2 weeks on foot. Who could carry supplies? Who would slow the group? Who would have to stay behind? The stew is thin again. You eat it anyway. Later, Elric catches your eye. He walks with you to the barn. Wordless. Once inside, he leans against a post and folds his arms. You're thinking about going, he says. You nod. He looks down at his boots. I'd go with you. There's a long pause. You sure? You ask. No, he says, but I'm more scared of staying. That makes 2 of you. You spend the afternoon checking supplies. How much flour? How much grain? What can be dried? What can be spared? You count blankets. You test ropes. You find old shoes and wonder how far they'd make it before giving up. Others begin to notice. By sunset, the rumors have circled. People begin to ask quietly. Is it true? Would we go? What if it's worse? What if it's better? No answers. Just questions. But questions are how revolutions begin. That evening, the fire is warm and the room is full. You tell them, not all of it, just enough. There's a place, you say, stone walls, knowledge, maybe healing, far north. Elric stands beside you, so does Marn. No one laughs. Someone asks, who would go? You wait. One hand rises. Then another. Then 6 more. Not everyone, not even most, but enough. Enough to start a line of footprints. Enough to carry the hope forward. You feel your heart thump in your chest, not from fear this time, but from weight, the weight of leading, of choosing, of not being able to turn back. You lie awake that night, listening to the wind, to the breath of others, to the sound of boots being mended in the dark. And just as your eyes begin to close, you imagine the monastery again. Stone walls, wood smoke, a bell, and for the first time in a long time, you fall asleep with something gentle waiting for you on the other side of your dreams. Preparations begin at dawn, not loudly, this isn't a parade. Just quiet movement, like the whole village is drawing in a breath. Those who plan to stay behind keep their distance. But they watch. Everyone watches. No one says it aloud. But the weight of this decision presses on every thatched roof, every creaky floorboard, every pot simmering on a dwindling fire. You pack your satchel, a bit of bread, a cloth of dried meat, the rough blanket you've always used but never truly liked. Marn helps bind your shoes tighter with strips of linen. You'll need to stop stones from climbing in, he says with a faint smile. Roadstones are like ghosts. They find the cracks. Elric sharpens a small knife. His movements calm, precise. His fingers are steadier now than they've been in weeks. You notice the change. It's subtle. But the stockade didn't break him. It built something underneath. He carries himself differently, like someone who's done mourning. You take inventory of what little gear the group can share. A single water skin, 2 cooking pots, 1 cracked, 3 flint stones, a pouch of dried herbs from Marn, tied tight with a leather thong, a wooden spoon that's more sentiment than necessity. The woman who makes cheese presses a hard wheel into your hands. Last one, she says. Don't waste it on someone who won't walk. You nod. I won't. The old man's cottage stands empty now. Shuttered, shadowed. You pass it quickly. People leave offerings, small tokens. A strip of cloth, a sliver of soap, a handful of seeds, not because they expect them returned, but because giving feels like staying connected. Like saying, take a piece of us with you. By mid-morning, 10 are ready. Some younger, some stronger. A few who simply can't stomach one more winter of waiting. One girl no older than 14, with dirt on her cheeks and fury in her eyes, insists on coming. I can carry, she says, and she can. Marn leads a short prayer, not to any god in particular, but to the road, to endurance, to the unknown. You sling your pack over your shoulder. It creaks. So do your knees. The wind picks up. Elric gestures to the path ahead. Do we go now? You nod. Before the sun gets mean. The first steps are the hardest, not because of terrain, but because of what you leave behind. The look in the eyes of those waving from the doorway. The hollow sound of shutters closing behind you. The smell of that last bowl of oats. And then it's the road. Narrow, root-bound, quiet. The village fades behind you. Swallowed by trees. You walk in silence for a while. Boots scraping, packs thumping, the occasional sneeze, or cough, or muttered curse at a twisted ankle. No one complains loudly. No one sings. You pass a field with a broken plow still sunk in the soil. A scarecrow with no head. Arms flapping in the wind like it's still trying to matter. A creek, shallow and brown, gurgling with secrets. You stop there to rest. Water is boiled in a dented tin pot. Marn drops a few herbs in. Bitter steam. The girl with the fierce eyes catches a fish with her hands. You stare. She shrugs. Used to. It tastes better than anything you've had in weeks. Elric asks the question no one dares. What if it's not there? Marn chews slowly. Swallows. Then we keep walking. Later. A bird circles above. Dark wings. Slow glide. You don't know its name. But its cry sounds like a warning. The road splits. You follow the one less worn. Marn insists it's safer. Less traveled. Harder for the sick to spread there. If they've marked the other path. We don't want to be mistaken for plague. He explains. That night, you camp near a ring of old stones. Half buried in moss. Ancient. Possibly sacred. Definitely watching. A fire is built. Bread is shared. Someone hums a song. You join in. Softly. Stars emerge above. Dozens. Then hundreds. The kind of stars you forgot lived up there. You watch them until your neck aches. Marn sleeps lightly. Knife still tucked in hand. You don't sleep much at all. Every twig crack sounds like doubt. Every wind gust feels like regret. But when morning comes, and the light brushes the horizon in bruised pink and bruised gold, you find yourself still moving forward. Step after step. Breath after breath. Toward a monastery you've never seen. Toward hope you barely trust. But forward. And just as your feet begin to blister, and your pack starts to bite into your shoulder, the road levels slightly, and the trees part, and in the distance, like a stone resting in a still pond, you see it, maybe, a tower, smoke, a bell. The tower rises like a question out of the earth, solid, gray, barely distinguishable from the surrounding cliff. It doesn't call attention to itself. It simply exists. Rooted in stone and silence. As you squint through the morning haze, you catch a flicker. Smoke curling gently from behind the walls. A fire. Perhaps. A kitchen. Or proof that someone, anyone, is still there. The group gathers behind you. Feet quiet on the path. No one speaks. Not yet. You feel their eyes resting on that distant shape. All asking the same thing. Is this it? The road bends down into a valley and vanishes for a while. You descend into it slowly. Knees aching with every step. The wind is colder now. Sharper. It pulls at your cloak and sinks into your boots. Around you, trees give way to scrub. Then to rock. Then to that hard silence that always comes near high places. The monastery, if that's what it is, doesn't get any clearer. It stays there, in the distance, waiting. Watching. You reach the valley floor by midday. A stream cuts through it. Its water clear but swift. Someone slips while crossing. You catch them. The moment passes. But every step after is slower. Heavier. As though the closer you get, the more you start to wonder what you're walking into. You stop at a rise in the path. From here, you can see the gates. Wood reinforced with iron. Closed. No guards. No movement. A field lies before them, tilled once, but now overgrown. The remnants of a cart, half sunk into the soil. A scarecrow, too upright, too still. Marn narrows his eyes. This was worked recently. Elric nods. Within weeks. You step forward. The crunch of frost under your boot breaks the stillness. The others follow. As you reach the gate, you raise a hand. Knock once. Twice. The sound echoes. Hollow. Slow. It disappears into the stone. Nothing. You wait. Knock again. And then, movement. A flicker behind the slits in the wood. A shadow. A voice. Muffled. Who comes? You freeze for a moment. Then speak. Voice steady. Travelers. From the south. A pause. You carry illness? No, you say. Only hunger. And hope. The voice is older. Male. Many have come. Few were honest. You glance at Marn. He gives a small nod. We come for knowledge. Marn calls. For healing. For rest. If you have it. Another pause. Longer this time. Then, a heavy creak. The sound of iron against iron. The gate opens. Inside stands a monk. Tall. Robed. Face lined like old bark. He holds a staff. But not like a threat. Like a warning. He surveys the group slowly. 10 pairs of eyes look back at him. You're young, he says. And tired. You nod. Both true. Any weapons? A few. But only against hunger. He studies you a moment longer. Then he steps aside. Come in. The gate opens wider. You pass through. One by one. Unsure whether to hold your breath or exhale. Inside. The monastery is quiet, but not empty. A courtyard with patches of green. Stone buildings with thick doors. A cloister wrapped in climbing vines gone brown for winter. A chapel. Modest but standing. A few others move about. Raking. Carrying buckets. No one stares. No one speaks. The monk leads you to a hall. You step inside. Boots echoing. A long table. A fire at the far end. Benches. Dried herbs hanging from the beams. It smells of lavender, wood smoke, and something faintly medicinal. You'll rest here, he says. If you work, you'll eat. If you learn, you'll teach. He meets your eyes. We are not a sanctuary. We are a place of practice. If you seek comfort, make it. If you seek healing, earn it. If you seek meaning, he lets the sentence trail off. You nod. We understand. That night, you sleep in a real bed. Not straw. Not stone. Not shoulder to shoulder with coughs and dreams. Just a bed. Rough wool blanket. Pillow filled with feathers or maybe dried moss. You don't care. You lie there for a long time. Not because you're awake, but because your body doesn't believe it's allowed to relax. Your fingers twitch. Your shoulders unclench. And you feel it. The possibility of something new. The monks teach herbal practices the next morning. How to grind roots into salves. How to bind wounds without cloth. How to boil bark to calm fever. You watch. You write it all in your mind. Elric learns to clean wounds. Tom learns to build fires that smoke less. The girl with sharp eyes learns to stitch clean lines with strong thread. Marn disappears into the garden and reappears with 5 new plants you've never seen. You learn. And as you learn, something quiet happens inside you. Not joy, not peace. Something older. Something like restoration. One night, a monk sits beside you at the fire. He says, "You'll have to return one day." You nod. I know. You may not want to. You stare into the flames. I don't already. He doesn't smile, but his eyes do. Then you've learned something. You leave the monastery 2 weeks later. Not because you're ready. Because others are waiting. With bandaged arms. With empty bowls. With the belief that someone is coming back. And now you carry not just bread. Not just herbs. But reason. The kind that doesn't spoil with time. The road home feels different beneath your feet. It's not shorter. Your legs still ache by midday. And your pack still presses a groove into your shoulders. But the weight feels earned now. Measured. Like each step carries something useful instead of just desperation. You travel lighter in spirit. Heavier in knowledge. Elric walks ahead. Straighter now. His steps firm. The girl with sharp eyes sings softly to herself as she walks. Tying and readying knots in a length of twine. Marn walks behind. Quiet as ever. Occasionally stopping to gather a sprig of something growing wild. Plantain. Yarrow. Wormwood. He adds them to his pouch without a word. Every now and then, the wind carries the scent of smoke or pine. And someone murmurs, "Almost there," though no one's counting the miles anymore. On the 3rd evening, you see the ridge. That familiar bend in the trail. The low hill that overlooks home. You stop there. The village is smaller than you remember. Same houses. Same paths. Same sagging fence posts. But it looks worn. Not just by winter, but by waiting. Like a place that paused itself. Uncertain whether to carry on. Smoke curls from chimneys. A few figures move between homes. You descend the hill slowly. And as your boots meet the first stones of the village path, the door of the nearest house opens. A child squeals and runs. Someone shouts your name. Then others. Voices rise, hopeful, unsure, then sure. You're surrounded before you reach the square. Hands reach out, eyes wide. People touch your arms, your face, your cloak, as if to make sure you're real. You came back. You made it. You found it? You nod. Then you speak. Not loudly, just clearly. We found a place. We found help. And we brought it home. You show them what you learned, not all at once. Not like a teacher, but like someone sharing seeds. You show them how to boil herbs to ease fever. How to clean a wound with salt water. How to dry meat so it lasts longer. How to build a smoke shelf in the chimney to reduce coughing. Small things. Ancient things. Life-changing things. Marn teaches the healers. Elric helps rebuild the roof of the old man's cottage. The girl with sharp eyes starts teaching the younger children how to weave and mend and tie strong knots. You walk from house to house. You check the sick. You offer salves and soup. You show them how to rest without giving up. And when someone asks how you know these things, you say, because I didn't always. But someone taught me. The village begins to shift again. Slowly. The fear doesn't vanish, but it softens, like a bruise fading, like snow melting. One evening, after 3 days, you visit the grave of the old man. It's a simple mound, a wooden marker, a few wildflowers blooming without permission. You kneel, touch the earth, say nothing. Then you rise and return. Because the sun is setting. And someone's waiting for medicine. And another family needs help covering their roof before the next rain. The work doesn't end, but it changes. And so do you. Historians often wonder how people endured the darkest chapters of history. How they didn't simply stop. You've lived the answer now. It wasn't strength. Not exactly. It was return. People who went out, learned something, and came back. People who walked into the unknown. Not for escape, but for the tools to mend what was broken. You sit at the fire that night with Marn and Elric. The children are laughing nearby. Chasing chickens. The pot over the flames smells of something better than usual. Marn leans back, stretching. You could leave again, he says. You nod. I could. He raises an eyebrow. But I won't. You add. Not yet. Elric chuckles. We'd find you and drag you back anyway. The sky above is full of stars again. Like that first night you camped together. Before you knew what you'd find. Before you saw stone towers and quiet monks and a bell that rang through the fog. Before you came home. You close your eyes. Just for a moment. And for once, there's nothing pulling you away. The seasons shift gently. Almost without asking. Spring slips in through the cracks in the shutters. Green and wet and full of promise. Buds appear on branches that once held only frost. The ground softens. The stream runs faster. And the sun begins to linger. Just a little longer each day. As if it, too, wants to see how this story ends. Life in the village continues, but it no longer feels like merely surviving. The air carries more than wood smoke now. It carries plans. You wake to sounds that once meant little and now mean everything. The chopping of wood. The steady rhythm of someone sharpening a blade. The laughter of children who have learned to chase after something rather than run from it. There's a goat loose again. No one yells. They just guide it home gently. In the mornings, you gather with those who went north, your little traveling band. Around a table, you sort herbs, recount lessons, plan garden plots. You draw simple pictures on parchment with charcoal. Plants to grow. Tools to build. Traps to avoid. You're building something now. Something that might last. The girl with sharp eyes. Her name is Lisa. you finally learn, has taken over the small school of sorts. She teaches the younger ones how to sew, how to find clean water, how to say no when they need to. She keeps a knife tucked in her boot, and a notebook of pressed flowers under her pillow. Elric begins organizing the stronger boys and girls to help fortify the village, stronger fences, deeper ditches, lookout posts that no longer serve just for storm warnings, but for travelers. We should be ready, he says, in case others come looking. Like we did. You help at the makeshift infirmary, which is really just the old barn with dry straw and strong light. Marn spends hours there, and slowly, others begin to help. The healer who once gave up now sits beside him, relearning her craft from the ground up. Her hands, once shaky, now move with purpose. Together, you start a new wall, one made not of stone or timber, but of knowing. You teach what you learned. You explain how fevers break, how to ease a birth, how to speak gently to someone who's convinced they're dying, and how to know when they actually are. One evening, a stranger arrives. Not like Marn, cloaked and cautious. This one is desperate. He stumbles into the square, gaunt and wide-eyed, holding a child in his arms. The girl's face is flushed, her breath shallow. You hear the crowd gathering even before you step outside. But you're already moving. You take them to the barn, call for water, for blankets, for sage and elderflower. You speak calmly, you instruct quickly, and within the hour, she's breathing easier, not healed, but resting. Later, the father weeps, not loudly, but in that quiet, shaking way of a man who thought he was about to bury his world. Marn sits beside him. She'll be all right, he says, not because of faith, because of knowledge. Faith is what brought you here, but knowledge will help her wake up tomorrow. You never forget that line. It becomes a kind of creed. Blank, underscore, blank. You rebuild the library. That's what you start calling it. Though it's really just a dry cellar under the chapel. You fill it with scraps of learning, notes, sketches, bundles of labeled herbs, diaries from Marn, letters from the others who traveled with you. Every bit of it written plainly. Not for monks, for people. Lisa helps organize it. Elric adds his diagrams, tools, pulleys, drying racks for grain. The healer contributes symptoms and remedies. You add stories, small ones, gentle ones, tales of the road, and the lessons you learned in mud and rain and silence. One afternoon, a boy asks, "Can I write something?" You hand him the charcoal. And just like that, the wall grows higher. Blank, underscore, blank. The days pass. The village grows, not in size, but in heart. And one evening, as you sit near the fire outside with Marn, you realize something you haven't said aloud. You're not scared anymore. Tired, yes. Hungry, sometimes, but not afraid. And when Marn stands up, finally ready to leave, there are no tears, only packed herbs, strong handshakes, and the quiet promise, "You'll define without me." He doesn't take the road alone. Others join him, those who wish to keep walking, to keep carrying, to start again, somewhere else. You stay behind, because for once, the thing you're building isn't something to escape. It's something to protect. And just as the last light fades from the fire, and you lie back on the grass beneath the stars, you whisper a quiet thanks. Not to a god, not to the wind, but to the you who kept going, who left, who learned, and who came back, not just alive, but change. Some months later, the road brings new travelers. They arrive slowly, as all desperate things do, feet dragging, shoulders bent, eyes rimmed with dust and distance. There are 6 of them, 2 adults, 4 children, one limping, one coughing, one clutching a sack like it holds the last of her world. You see them from the ridge, the same place you stood months ago, doubting whether you could go on. You don't hesitate now. You run to meet them. The woman leading the group flinches as you approach. But she doesn't turn. There's a flicker in her eyes that says we've been turned away before. But you smile and say, "You're safe now." She stares for a beat too long, as if trying to understand what the trick is. Then, is this the village with the healer? You nod. Her knees buckle. You catch her before she falls. Blank. Underscore. Blank. They are the first of many. Word spreads slowly. But it spreads. That somewhere beyond the marshes. Beyond the plague-marked crossroads. Beyond the settlements that gave up, there is a place that didn't. A place where children recover. Where fires burn with purpose. Where strangers become neighbors. Elric expands the outer fence. Tom builds another well. Lisa and the others begin to train the older children in foraging. In basic remedies. In what to say to someone too scared to ask for help. You spend more time in the barn again. But now it smells less like desperation and more like time and dried flowers. Someone adds shelves. Someone else adds curtains. The floor is swept twice a day. You carry not just herbs now, but stories. When a child refuses medicine, you kneel beside them and say, "Once, there was a girl who ran into the woods when she was scared. She came back with a branch of yarrow and a heart steadier than any knight's." They listen, because your voice doesn't sound like hope. It sounds like proof. Blank. Underscore. Blank. One morning, you walk to the old stone circle, the one where you spent your first night on the journey north. You bring a notebook and a pouch of wild mint. You sit in the grass, still damp with dew, and write, "We didn't change the world, but we changed our corner of it. And for the people who find their way here, that's enough." You press a violet between the pages. You walk back. Blank. Underscore. Blank. The seasons cycle faster now. Spring rolls into summer. Summer folds into harvest. The fields grow full again. The grain dries clean. The children don't just grow taller, they grow curious. One asks if they can go to the monastery someday. You nod. When you're ready. Another asks what you were like before. You pause. Then smile. Tired. You say, but stubborn. Lisa laughs at that. Still are. You don't argue. Blank. Underscore. Blank. One night. The fire burns longer than usual. Someone brought wine. Someone else baked bread. A fiddle appears from nowhere. People dance. Badly. You do, too. The girl who once caught fish with her bare hands teaches a circle of younger kids how to braid ropes from wet grass. Elric stumbles trying to juggle apples. Tom sings a song no one's heard in years. Marn's name is mentioned 3 times before anyone realizes. You sit back and watch the glow of the flames reflect in the eyes of people who no longer flinch when the wind changes direction. And just as the stars begin to flicker to life above you, someone sits beside you. It's the woman from the first group that arrived after you returned. She doesn't say much, just places something in your hand. It's a pebble. Flat, smooth, the kind travelers carry and leave behind. You look at her. She says, to mark where it turned around. You nod and tuck it in your pocket. Later, in the quiet, as the embers die down and the air cools, you walk the edge of the village. The fence, the well, the drying racks, the rows of herbs, the fading footprints of children who now sleep, safe, and you realize, you no longer fear the next chapter. Because you helped write this one. The seasons pass, as they always do, but now, they pass through you, not just around you. You feel them not just in the trees or the sky, but in your bones, in your daily breath, in the shifting needs of the people around you. Spring brings its softness like a second chance. Summer hums with long days and good soil. Autumn arrives heavy with harvest and responsibility. And even winter, when it returns, feels less like a threat and more like a pause. A time to reflect, not to fear. The village doesn't grow in size. Not really, but it grows in depth. And that, you've come to understand, is even better. More than a few new faces have appeared in the past months. Some travelers who stayed, some sent by word of mouth. A handful of orphans taken in by families who once didn't think they could care for more. A boy who never speaks, but builds toys out of twigs. A widow who bakes bread even when her hands tremble. A girl who survived the fever and now runs faster than anyone. The barn, once a place of panic, is now a place of learning. The children don't fear it. They gather there in the afternoons, asking questions you couldn't have answered a year ago, about plants, about fevers, about how to bandage a wound without screaming. You've begun something here. Not a sanctuary, not a rebellion. A pattern, a rhythm of care. One that anyone can pick up if they listen. Blank. Underscore, blank. The handbook for the tired and brave is nearly complete. Lisa has drawn dozens of plants with fine, practiced lines. Tom helped bind the first pages with strips of boiled leather. Elric helped test the fire-safe inks. A young girl who learned to read by candlelight now volunteers to copy each page by hand. You sit in the cellar sometimes, tracing the spines of what's become a small library. Each book smells faintly of wax and dried thyme. You've kept letters from the monastery, notes from passing traders, even fragments from burned towns, charred edges of warnings, stories half saved. On the inside cover of the first finished volume, you write, for those who don't believe they can, but still do anyway. And beneath that, in your own hand, this was written with dirty hands and a tired heart. Which is to say, it was written with love. Blank. Underscore, blank. People begin to send requests. Not for help, but for knowledge. A village a week's walk away wants to know how to stop scurvy in their goats. Another, farther, asks how to dry mushrooms without spoilage. A letter arrives by courier. A hand-drawn map from a boy who heard about your school and wants to start one in his village. You respond to each with care. Sometimes with answers. Sometimes with more questions. You tell them what Marn once told you. You don't have to know everything. Just enough to make the pain smaller. And slowly, you realize, you've become the person you once hoped someone else would be. You, who once walked into the monastery trembling. You, who once sat in the dark and asked, how much longer can we live like this? Now, people come to you asking, what do we do next? Blank. Underscore, blank. One evening, you visit the hill beyond the fields. The one you stopped on before leaving. Before the journey that changed everything. The wind brushes through the grass like a hand you almost remember. You sit, knees pulled to your chest, and stare at the horizon. Not looking for anything, just being. And as you watch the sun settle into the edge of the earth, you feel something stir inside you, not urgency, not longing, just gratitude, a quiet, steady warmth. You return to the village after dusk. Lisa is setting out blankets near the fire pit for stargazing. The children are lying on their backs, naming constellations that don't exist. Elric is fixing the handle on a cart with a boy too young to remember the plague. Tom is teaching someone how to sharpen a blade without shaving half of it off. The woman who once said she'd never sing again is humming while peeling carrots. You take it all in. Slow. Like reading a favorite page before turning it. You sit beside the fire. Someone passes you a mug, warm cider. Sweet with herbs. You sip. You close your eyes. You hear laughter. The kind that rings through the trees and dares the night to steal it. You hear music, badly played. Roughly sung, but real. You hear the soft breath of someone sleeping beside the hearth. Their chest rising in time with the crackle of the flames. And you think, we made this. Not by force. Not by faith alone. But by refusing to give up. By choosing to care. Again and again. Even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. You lean back, letting the firelight dance across your face. Above, the stars are soft tonight. The kind of soft that only comes when you're no longer afraid of the dark. Someone nudges you and asks quietly, what now? And without thinking, you say, we rest. And tomorrow, we begin again. Because that's the only answer there ever was. And the only one that matters. You wake before the others. Not because of fear, or cold, or the drip of a leaking roof, but simply because you can. Because the rhythm of your body has softened into the rhythm of the land. You stretch slowly, joints cracking like the warming timbers of a quiet home. The air is still cool, but not biting. Outside, birds are already gossiping in the hedges. A new day. You light the fire before anyone stirs. Not out of duty, but out of something gentler. Like stewardship, like love, the flames catch easily now. The wood is dry, stacked carefully. The tinder prepared by hands that know their work. You warm your fingers, savoring the slow heat creeping into your palms. And let the stillness soak through your skin like sunlight. You don't need to rush anymore. The day will meet you where you are. Blank. Underscore. Blank. The village stirs around you. Children pad out in bare feet. Sleepy but smiling. A girl carries a basket of eggs with both arms like she's cradling treasure. Someone yawns out the lyrics of a song you can't quite name. A boy falls in the mud chasing a chicken. And no one scolds him. You make tea from mint and chamomile. It smells like calm. You sip it slowly. Watch the steam rise. Then, as the sky opens fully into day, the work begins. But it's not labor in the way it once was. It's maintenance. Tending. Refining. You check on the herb gardens, Lisa's rows of yarrow. Thyme. Echinacea. All reaching skyward with purpose. You help repack salves for the infirmary. You add 3 new entries to the second volume of the handbook. What to do if your breath is short. The difference between fear and fever. How to speak softly to someone who won't stop shaking. You don't write like a scholar. You write like someone who's held too many hands as they trembled. Blank. Underscore. Blank. A visitor arrives around midday. She's young, maybe 16, dirty cheeks, matted hair, eyes that dart like a rabbit's. She doesn't speak at first. Just stands on the road, watching the smoke from your hearth as if afraid it's a trap. You walk out to meet her. She stiffens when you approach. You stop a few feet away. Say nothing. Then gently offer your hand. She doesn't take it, but she doesn't run. And that's enough. Eventually, she follows you inside, sits by the fire, stares at the flames, says one word. Ridgefall. You nod. You know the name. It's one of the places marked on Lisa's map. Crossed out, not because it was burned, but because it stopped answering. The girl doesn't tell you what happened. You don't ask. Instead, you give her tea. And later, a soft tunic. And later still, a blanket that smells faintly of cedar and sleep. She stays. Not forever, but long enough to remember that not all silence is danger. Blank. Underscore. Blank. You begin to think about what comes after the handbooks. Not just healing and farming, but growing. Not just teaching what to fear, but teaching what to create. You start keeping notes on music, on storytelling, on the small, invisible ways joy finds its place between hard things. You teach one child how to carve, another how to patch leather. You begin a list titled, Things Worth Remembering Even When Nothing Hurts. Entry 1. The sound of water on leaves at dawn. Entry 2. The way laughter changes a person's posture. Entry 3. The fact that, sometimes, the body heals after the heart does. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Elric approaches you one night with a strange look. He's holding a bundle. Inside it, a tunic. New, well made, light brown with clean stitching and wide sleeves. He shrugs. You'll need something nicer when you start traveling again. You blink. Travel? He smiles. People are asking for you. Other villages. Word gets around. You didn't think we'd keep you forever. Did you? You look down at the tunic. It's soft. It smells like fresh linen and possibility. You sit by the fire that night and stitch your initials into the hem. Not for ownership. For reminder. Blank. Underscore. Blank. You leave 1 week later. Not alone. With a wagon. Packed carefully. With copies of the handbook. With dried food. With a fresh satchel of Marn's herbs. With a carved token from Lisa. Shaped like a tree whose roots wrap around a book. Elric walks with you to the edge of the ridge. He claps your shoulder. No one tells you this. He says, but sometimes peace is built one bruise at a time. You nod. I'll come back. He grins. No rush. We'll hold the fire for you. As you step onto the road, the sky stretches wide. The hills lean forward to listen. The air tastes of dust and apple blossoms. And for the first time, your steps don't feel like escape. They feel like offering. Just as you round the bend, you glance back. The village glows behind you, small, strong, alive, a testament. And ahead? Just earth and wind and stories still waiting to be written. You walk on. The road stretches long, but it no longer feels lonely. Each bend in the path carries with it the memory of someone's voice. A laugh shared under a broken roof. A lesson scrawled on rough parchment. A hand held in silence. You walk with these echoes. Not as burdens, but as companions. You wear them the way a tree wears rains, proof of seasons weathered. Of time spent not just surviving, but living. The wagon creaks behind you. The harness groaning with the gentle rhythm of wheels turning on dirt. The path winds through valleys that look both familiar and new. Fields of wild mustard, stone bridges stained with moss, sheep blinking lazily in the sun. You pass a child picking berries. She waves. You wave back. Your steps feel grounded now. Sure, without urgency. Like someone who no longer needs to flee, or chase, or fight, only arrive. And you do. To a small settlement tucked into the hills. Not marked on any of the old maps. No church bell. No battlements. Just a cluster of roofs and people whose eyes carry the same weariness you once wore. They greet you like a rumor come true. You're the one with the book, they say. You smile. One of them. They open their doors. And you enter. Again. Blank. Underscore. Blank. The sickness here is not of the body, it's of the soul. No plague, no fever. Just the slow unraveling that comes from too much grief and too little hope. Crops have failed. A fire claimed the granary. A fight split the council. And the well, once deep and sweet, is barely more than a muddy sigh. You listen, not to offer answers, but to show them they're not alone in the asking. You teach them how to store water with clay stopper jugs, how to seal cracks in the hearth with salt and wax, how to preserve seeds, how to make tea that settles the stomach when grief feels too big for food. You teach them how to build something that outlives the wound. Blank. Underscore. Blank. They ask, after a few days, if you'll stay. You don't answer right away. Instead, you gather them in the old community barn. Lay out copies of the handbook. Not to lecture, but to read together. One page at a time. As if each word is a meal being shared. You pause when needed. You laugh when someone misreads tincture as texture. You explain the parts you once didn't understand either. You add a new section on storing joy, an idea from a child who said, "Why do we only write down what hurts?" You sleep that night under the stars. No roof. Just sky. And you dream, not of running, but of rooting. Blank. Underscore. Blank. In the morning, you begin building shelves in the barn. You don't ask for help, but they come anyway. One man brings nails, another a plank of wood. A girl brings ribbon to make it nice. The shelves go up crooked, but strong. You label them not by alphabet, but by feeling, healing, hunger, hope, home. You leave the village a month later. You carry new pages, new stories, new recipes written in different handwriting. You carry the laughter of people who thought they'd forgotten how. You carry the shape of a village rediscovering its rhythm. You head east. Another fire. Another gathering. Another place where someone waits for proof that kindness still walks the earth. And still you walk. Still you teach. Still you carry. And behind you, each place you've been plants something new. Not temples. Not legends. But habits. Hands that help. Words that heal. Books that breathe. And forward. Always forward. You go. Because someone once taught you to begin. And now it's your turn to begin others. And now, as the final coals of this long journey dim to embers, you lie back beneath the quiet weight of the sky. The wind is low. The air hums like a lullaby. And your body, so long in motion, begins to soften. Your breath slows. Your fingers unclench. Your shoulders, once braced for hardship, melt into stillness. You think of the tunic you wore on that first morning. Scratchy, ill-fitted, always damp. You think of the ache in your feet after that first village. The way fear once nestled behind every rib. How your hands trembled the first time you held a sick child. How they no longer do. Now, they are steady. Now, they are tired but proud. The road behind you is filled with echoes. Laughter shared beside the hearth. Footsteps in rain. Whispers of healing whispered across many walls. You carry none of it as weight, only as warmth. A fire that lives inside you, even when the path is dark. And the future? It will come as it always does, sunrise by sunrise, season by season. But for now, there is only breath, and comfort, and rest. Let your hands relax into the linen. Let the scent of wood smoke drift away. Let your dreams gather slowly, like mist on the hills. The journey has been long. You've earned this stillness. Your home,